So, all my research reflections and talking to amazingly brilliant people, including children, who I think are the modern day philosophers, the conclusion is that the happiest people on this planet have four things in common.
Four things in common.
Four things. The number one is having a cadre of good friends. Your friends are your chosen family. Robert Louis Stevenson once said, a friend is a gift you give to yourself. Khalil Gibran said, friendship is a sweet responsibility, never an opportunity. Now, there's a study called the Harvard Grant Study. It's the longest standing study on adult happiness. It started a year before Hitler invaded Austria. And they recruited 750 21-year-olds in Boston. 250 went to Harvard. The other 500 were from the poorest parts of Massachusetts, often very dysfunctional families. The war started, off they went to the war. They came back, re-entered the study. As of a few years ago, 19 were still alive at age 90.
Wow.
1 years of age. What study goes on for 8 decades? Principal investigator dies, somebody else comes, funding disappears. So who was in that study? Now a cohort of their children, 2,000, are being followed in a similar study. Detailed questionnaires, physical examination, EKG, C-reactive protein, functional MRI. 4 ran for the US Senate. 1 became our president. John F. Kennedy was in the study. Lawyers, doctors, engineers, Skid Row alcoholic derelicts. Some died of suicide. And the major conclusion of the study, loneliness is toxic. And that your satisfaction with relationships with friends at age 50 is a better predictor of health, happiness, and longevity at age 80. Better than what? Your EKG, your cholesterol, your blood pressure. So I teach the medical students and the young residents, you may have 15, 20 minutes for a repeat visit. Last 30 seconds, ask them, what do they do to celebrate with friends? And point them to this TED Talk. You don't even have to read the book. There's a book about it called The Triumph of Experience. But there's a brilliant TED Talk by Robert Waldinger, who's a professor of psychiatry at Harvard Medical School and the current principal investigator of this study. What makes a good life? The longest standing study on adult happiness, Robert Waldinger. So that's the first one, friends.
Friends.
Second attribute is the ability to forgive. If you hold bitterness or rancor in your heart, you can never be truly happy. Anyone listening, if you're holding a grudge against somebody, an ex, neighbor, sibling, parent, teacher, my plea, get rid of it. The moment you make that decision, you'll feel this enormous weight come off your shoulders. Gandhiji said, forgiveness is the attribute of the strong. The weak can never forgive. The Buddha said, resentment is like holding a hot coal with the intent of hurtling it at somebody who offended you. That person's moved on. Meanwhile, you're burning your hand.
Yeah.
And to me, the greatest example of forgiveness is Nelson Mandela. Spent 27 years in prison. He's released. He's asked, Mr. Mandela, do you harbor resentment against your white captors? He said, I have no bitterness. I have no resentment. Resentment is like drinking poison and then hoping it will kill your enemies. He said, as I walked on the gate to freedom, I looked back at my cell and I said to myself, if I still harbor resentment, I'd still be in prison. Prison of the mind. So friends, forgiveness. The third I've derived from a quote by Albert Schweitzer, physician, theologian, humanitarian, Nobel laureate, very humble man. 1952, he gets the Nobel Peace Prize. At the ceremony, he says, now I have to go earn it. I don't deserve it. Now I have to go earn it. And he once said, I don't know what your destiny will be, but one thing I'm certain of, the ones amongst you who will be truly happy are those who have sought and found how to serve. There's this whole concept now of servant leadership. So friends, forgiveness for others, 3 F's. But the fourth one begins with G, and it's gratitude.
Gratitude.
Right? If you don't speak the language of gratitude, you will never be on speaking terms with happiness. But happiness is more than the sum total of happy moments. And in order for you and me and others to have sustained happiness, we have to find our purpose and live it.
Purpose, Dharma.
Yeah. So a quote about purpose. Mark Twain famously said, the two most important days in your life are the day you're born and the day you find out why.